The ruling dynasty of Saudi Arabia, the House of Saud, is one of the most powerful families in the world, but they once ruled only a small, desolate part of the Arabian desert, and they've actually been kicked out of even that more than once. As a result, today's Saudi Arabia is the third in a line of Saudi-led states. So then, how did the Al Saud manage to come to power and then gain control over such a large swath of the Arabian Peninsula? Why does the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia exist? Well, firstly, the answer to that is not just oil wealth. Oil wasn't even discovered in the kingdom until after its unification. The story of the Saudis really begins in 1744, when the chieftain of the Central Arabian settlement of Diriyah, Muhammad bin Saud, formed an alliance with a radical Islamic cleric named Muhammad ibn al-Wahhab. Together, they founded the first Saudi state, the Emirate of Diriyah, with bin Saud as emir or political head, and al-Wahhab as imam, the state's spiritual leader. The pair wanted to unify Arabia under al-Wahhab's idea of a purified Islam. The emirate was technically subordinate to its much larger neighbour, the Ottoman Empire, and the Ottoman sultans, in addition to that title, also claimed to be caliphs, basically leaders of the Muslim world. Something that Wahhabis, as followers of al-Wahhab would later be known as, were not all that happy about, seeing the Ottoman state as religiously decadent and corrupt. So, in their efforts to conquer Arabia, the parts of it ruled by the Ottomans, most importantly the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, weren't spared. They were taken by Muhammad bin Saud's grandson, which turned out to be a mistake for the Saudis. In the Ottoman Wahhabi War, which was really fought by Egyptian subjects of the Ottomans and the Wahhabis, Diriyah was razed to the ground and the first Saudi state destroyed. Most members of the Al Saud and Al Wahhab families were taken as Ottoman prisoners, and the state's last emir was publicly beheaded in Constantinople. But the Ottomans would not be able to hold on to the notoriously difficult to govern Central Arabian desert for long. In 1824, Turki bin Abdullah bin Muhammad al Saud, who survived the destruction of Diriyah, drove Egyptian forces out of Riyadh, which he made the capital of a new Saudi state, the Emirate of Nejd. Unlike the first, the second Saudi state didn't try to claim the two holy cities, though it still was heavily influenced by Wahhabist theology, and did expand well into eastern Arabia. But by this point, the descendants of Muhammad bin Saud numbered in the hundreds, and the Emirate of Nejd would basically be torn apart by Saudi infighting, something that a different clan, the al-Rashid, rulers of the Emirate of Jabal Shammar to the north, used to their advantage. The al-Rashid aligned themselves with the Ottomans, and by 1891 they were powerful enough to take Riyadh, ending the Emirate of Nejd. Most members of the House of Saud went into exile in Kuwait. Among them was Nejd's last ruler, Rahman bin Faisal, and more importantly, his son, Abdulaziz bin Rahman al Saud, who, in Kuwait, replaced his father as head of the family. He is commonly known in the West as Ibn Saud. Abdulaziz was not content to live in exile, so he, along with several of his relatives, took to raiding the al-Rashid. In 1902, with only a few dozen men, he managed to enter Riyadh, and once inside, they killed the Rashidi governor and took over the city, founding the third Saudi state, which would later become Saudi Arabia. With Ottoman aid, the al-Rashid were able to prevent Abdulaziz from completely wiping them out, though by 1912 he had retaken Nejd and then pushed into Al-Hassa. In large part, Abdulaziz's conquests were enabled by his creation of the Ikhwan, an order of formerly nomadic Arabs who had been converted to Wahhabist Islam. Essentially, it was a large, rabidly zealous army of warriors who were used to tough desert life. The collapse of their Ottoman allies during World War I put the al-Rashid in an unenviable position. That was made worse when the British Empire, intent on gaining influence in the region, supplied the Saudis with arms and ammunition to fight them, allowing Abdulaziz to complete his 20-year-long campaign of revenge against the al-Rashid in 1921. With the fall of Jabal Shammar, he declared himself Sultan of Nejd, and finalized his northern border with Britain. The end of the Ottoman Empire also ended their protection of Mecca and Medina, which came under the control of Hussein bin Ali, ruler of the newly created Kingdom of Hejaz. As direct descendants of Islam's prophet Muhammad, his ancestors, the Hashemites, had governed Mecca for the previous 1,000 years or so, though generally under the authority of another power. Bin Ali, as Sharif of Mecca, had led the British-instigated Arab Revolt in 1916, something that Nejd, as it fought the Ottoman-backed al-Rashid, also participated in. Britain had promised him a unified Arab state, which Bin Ali didn't get, though as a consolation his sons were given Transjordan and Iraq, and he was allowed to rule Hejaz. However, Britain also supported the Saudis, and frankly, Bin Ali was causing the British problems, mostly by trying to take the caliphal title for himself. So, when Abdulaziz and the Ikhwan launched an invasion of Hejaz in 1924, Britain did nothing to prevent the kingdom's fall. For the next 6 years, Abdulaziz remained king of two kingdoms. Nejd and Hejaz were administered separately. The Ikhwan, though, began to become disillusioned with his leadership, viewing Abdulaziz as too pro-Western. He was unwilling to attempt to expand into British protectorates in Arabia, and as not properly adhering to Wahhabism. So they revolted, and after 2 bloody years of fighting, were put down after the Battle of Sabia in 1929. The remnants of the Ikhwan were eventually reorganized into the Saudi Arabian National Guard. The revolt was the last tribal war fought by the Saudis, so with his position secure, Abdulaziz officially united Nejd and Hejaz into a new kingdom that would bear his family name, Saudi Arabia. Shortly afterwards, oil would be found beneath the Saudi desert, and that, which directly led to Saudi Arabia gaining a new Western partner, the United States, played an important role in ensuring that Abdulaziz's new state didn't follow its fellow Arab kingdoms of Egypt and Iraq into the dustbin of history. Abdulaziz's personal charisma, as well as the institutionalization of Wahhabist ideology in Saudi Arabia, for example, descendants of al-Wahhab still hold powerful positions in the Saudi government, also helped the al-Saud retain power. On top of that, Saudi Arabia has, mostly, avoided the infighting that plagued earlier generations of the Al Saud. As of this video's publishing, all kings of Saudi Arabia, other than Abdulaziz himself, have been his sons. He had 45 total. When he died in 1953, Abdulaziz was succeeded by his eldest, King Saud, who reigned for 11 years until he was overthrown by his brother, Faisal, with the help of the rest of the family. Since then, though, the throne has passed from brother to brother, as the increasingly elderly sons of Abdulaziz have slowly died off. Not to worry, though. Today, the House of Saud has thousands of members, and its de facto head, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, is firmly in control of Saudi Arabia. The country and the House of Saud likely aren't going away anytime soon. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell below so you don't miss the next one. To learn more about the Arab world, find out what causes conflict in Israel-Palestine in the video to the left. And as always, I've been James, and thank you for watching Look Back History.